the show. How are you? It has been a wonderful time around. One, God blessed us with showers of blessing. The rain came. No doubt to some, is another unfortunate story. But you recall that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, on this platform and on my other social media handles, I want that people who are living in the riverbank or route or flooding and all should please evacuate. Evacuate. If need be, leave your belongings and run for your dear lives. When there is life, of course, any other thing can come in. Nothing can be lost that is valuable more than your life. If you have your life, whatever you lose can be recovered and you can get them back. Unfortunately, some did not do the advice and some did it. Be that as it may, we are here again today, and it's a special day, a Salah period, and we need to use this opportunity to greet all our Muslim brothers and even Muslim sisters and brothers. Barakah de Salah, and I pray that this next year things will be better for those who are not been able to slaughter the rams. Meanwhile, my way coming, I passed through that market, and I saw some people doing the last minute trust Nigerians. They're always the last minuters. And of course, some of them are after they want to close yesterday. That one was for yesterday. Another one was today, and we can be sure there will be another one for tomorrow. Particularly for we, the Woods. Tomorrow is the Judah Baby, and you can be sure there will be a whole lot of pomp and victory celebrating the Ileya festival. Be that as it may, I'm Wale Ogunade, your host on this program called Voters Forum, coming direct from Galaxy Studio live in the city of Lagos. We have another interesting topic today for you. The topic is about the government and the people, the power play between them. Who is government? Who are the people? Where do these people called government come from? And the people themselves, how do they make government? And how do they now relate the government and the people? Then we'll look at the politics that plays out between the government and the people. Simple. So that you have an understanding. We have brought a guest who will really tear this issue down for our own understanding. And to that extent, we'll just go and watch and listen to the mini feature. And when we come back, we'll get cracking. Yes, policy makers, government officials should not throw the baby away in the bathwater. And that is the pain of our system. I remember when I was a very small boy, 35 years ago, a project called PAN in Ojo was set up. One in Ojo was set up that was Volkswagen Company of Nigeria manufactured the P2 because it was the poor man's car, they called it then. Then of course PAN, that's the Joe Automobile of Nigeria too, was set up in Kaduna. I guess there in Kano or another one in Enugu. Car to produce trucks and cars. Today, they are all there because government's willpower and the political will to continue the project of peaceful out. And you'll see in other clients, they are turning state-of-the-art vehicles, brand vehicles that just see the design and you marvel that, to the extent that an individual has developed what is it called, an electric vehicle, which some rich Nigerians are bringing into the country. So what is our problem? One of the things that we need to develop the vehicle industry is the steel. And God again has given us that. As they say. I've been to Ajaokuta And it was a sorry state that you see that big, giant, is a sorry state. You see the big complex, it's just off. It has been abandoned now. A very large complex, abandoned because of lack of political will. And you can be sure that then the money was something else serious. It was in the billions of dollars that was invested in that project in Ajaokuta. As we talk now, it's up. Do we go to Okobuku, the paper mill? I work with papers. And I remember from 3-4 years ago, we used to buy a ream of paper for maybe 200, 300 naira. Now a ream is off the roof. I guess the last time I remember it was 4,500 or so for one ream of paper, or 6,000. I can't remember well what my clerk got for me, but I know that it starts high. And we go further in terms of the vehicles that we ride. I remember that earlier in the 80s, a brand new Fujo was not more than 30,000 naira. I can't get a brand new vehicle for less than 4-5 million naira. In fact, that would be a second-class vehicle that they bring from overseas. What is the problem? Are we caused in this country? What is it that has now affected this politics between the people and the government? Government of is careless about the plight of the people. They are elected or they are in office, appointed. And of course, they are now properties of the state as it were. They careless, they don't know how much the vehicle costs. And that's why you see them riding vehicles of up to 200 million, 300 million, 400 million naira, which is enough to establish somebody for life. And they don't ride one of those vehicles. They have a fleet. Sometimes some of them go with at least 10 in a convoy when they are moving, to the detriment of the people. And here we are, some people, the teaching that they give them as their minimum with their salary, they are denying. And all this, they want to tell the people that they are unfortunate not to be in government. Well, I've made my own way. I've said my own, and of course I just use this again as another second leg of prologue. My guest in the studio with me, Kingsley Chino.
Thank you so much for
He's a friend of the house. The only thing is that his face just disappeared. But I know maybe he will now become Jonathan.
Thank you for having me. Maybe it's my own way of testing. Because,
okay.
Yes, like you mentioned, you are relishing the old good days. It appears that the more you speak about those
the more they pay you.
Exactly. So we decided to make our own something focus. That's on the later news. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, I've just made some little introduction. Maybe we'll just wait on it before we now go to the meat of the program. First, as you said, some people in the seconds ago, telling us about the good old days that it were and the plans of those good old days, some that saw the light of the day, some that were frustrated or abandoned, or jettisoned, all on the altar of politics.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And a happy Salah to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Compliments of the season. Well, the problem of Nigeria, like Chino Achebe once said, that is purely and solely leadership problem. And when you were giving your introductory statement, you released those old good moments when Nigeria, was actually progressing. Because as things are, it appears that we are progressively retrogressing. So we are progressing in reverse, in the sense that it appears that every successive government appears to be worse than their government is succeeding. So we always look back at the previous government, at every given electioneering period. So these are institutional issues. These are institutional problems. And it takes the courage of conviction of the people themselves. Because when we get to the major topic, when we have to deal with the issue of, power play, you see that also people also exercise enormous powers on their leaders. So if we are awake and alive to our own responsibilities, we should be able to contain those excesses. You see, the problem we have is that we drive so much joy in elephant projects. That's why you see policy inconsistencies, where a government, that is time bound, will begin a project that he knows or they know they won't be able to implement before the end of their tenure. So, and every other government succeeding them will jettison those projects and begin another big elephant project. So you see abandoned projects all over. None of them is being put to the letter. So these are issues and these are leadership problems that everybody must come together to address. That is my take.
Yeah, maybe we'll just move it towards that. Is it why we're having this abandonment, jettison, and just overlooking the predecessor's project? Is because of the money involved? You see, when the project, particularly as they call it, the white elephant, or the bigger the project as you see, the more the money is involved. I'm sure you have been to the name just left my brain now, that what is the name did in Calabar, this big
the Tinapa Resort.
The Tinapa Resort, thank you. After him, chicken, and the last time I went there equally, it was a shadow of itself, of the plant, because obviously it was in the outskirts of Calabar.
Yes, the problem is, yes, you got it right. Part of the problem is that when the government that started that project is no longer in government, obviously the money appropriated for that project may have been.
Let me see. Maybe because the other day, what was his name? Donald Duke.
Yes.
Right. I ran into him sometime. He said the intention was that they wanted to create another new Calabar city, and that mall would be something that would be the attraction for people to come develop universities, industries, business concern. And of course, he was quick to mention the various ShopRite projects all over. I mean, the one in Ibadan, the one in Lekki, and the one here, including the Surulere, that those ones. And of course, because of they are cited in the presence of existing communities they are thriving, that he wanted to do a shift by placing that one there. But unfortunately, he didn't see the light of the day because governments that took over from him did not look at it that way. Meanwhile, the gist is that everyone will look at it that let me know sick or get me to recover my
cost of
election and even get money for the next election to the detriment of the people. And now maybe we'll just go straight into the main issue. This is politics as I think, and it's a power play between the politician and the people. The politician now becoming government and the people being given the short end of the stick.
Well, the question is a bit,
Okay. Okay, let's pick it one by one.
Okay. I think, like I said earlier, part of the reasons why government policies are not being followed to the letter is multifaceted. The reason is multifaceted. Yes. One has to deal with even the political party in power. Sometimes, if there is no consistency of political parties in power, there's going to be a clash of interests. Yes. Because the next political party that is coming on board would think that it is not their project. They have to start a new project entirely and take the glory, even though at the end of the day, they won't be able to implement those policies, to the end of it. Yes. So we also have both cultural issues, ideological issues, and most importantly, leadership issue that has to do with the corruption, because we cannot divulge corruption from all of this. If a government that started a project was unable to complete it, you will see that the next succeeding government will tell you there is no funds. That the funds appropriated for this project have been utilized by the past government. So there is nothing for them to continue. And they won't have the courage of conviction to, appropriate new funds for them to complete those projects. They would rather prefer to start a new project, begin to build, airports, begin to build, bridges and coastal roads that, that in the next 10 years, that government will not be able to complete implement those processes.
Sorry, because I remember even recently there is this politics between Buhari's government or his boys and the Jonathan boys concerning the second Niger bridge. I didn't know, maybe you got to hear about it. That people are saying no, that it was Jonathan who ensured that he saw the light of the day and so on. Of course, the Buhari people were saying no, to ensure that it was completed and so on and so forth. And of course, such rivalry, are the people not the beneficiary or the victim, depending on how you look at it, of such ideas?
Yes, people are the victim most importantly, because, government is there for the interest of the people. If that government is no longer serving the people upon which it is in power, it is not what, called a government. So if the policy of government does not trickle down to the people, so if it's about power play between the elites, between the oligarchies, it's about their own personal interest, personal conviction, personal aggrandizement, you see that people continue to be impoverished. Rather than looking at policies holistically as it would affect the generality of the citizens, but in our own society, most unfortunately, it has become the issue of politicians and their own interests. And the irony or the funny part is that more often than not, when those politicians in quotes are in the other side, in the opposition, they will begin to speak reasonably. They will begin to tilt towards the path of these people, the society. But as soon as the baton changes, you will begin to think, is there anything in the corridors of power?
Yes, just talk to us to that. Because sometimes it makes me sick or mad or have brainwave. Look at them pontificating. When they are in government, you even tell them, you will seek audience with them. This is the right thing to do. This is what, like this program, we use platforms like this, or even other programs of this nature to inform government officers that this thing is not done. This one should be done. This one you are failing. People are suffering here. They put deaf ears to it. And now they are out of government. They will now begin to pontificate. Exactly. Why?
They become overnight advocates. They begin to castigate government, and you begin to think this person had once been in government, wants change. And when you finally get to power, the person becomes adamant. And when you are talking, everything becomes politics. So it's a shame, really. It's a shame that we have found ourselves in this situation. But we'll have to continue, because that's why I said at the outset that the citizens are also powerful. The only problem, or part of the problem, is that citizens themselves have been weaponized. They've used poverty to weaponize the citizens. They have also, tried to divide, this policies of divide and rule. They've also divided the people along ethnic, religious, and tribal sentiments.
Let us look at it. I'm happy you even brought this. Maybe we'll use this opportunity to clear the air about weaponizing poverty and, for all intents and purposes, now castrating them. Right. To me, the number of people who are poor, in fact, it is the more reason why having weaponized poverty, you ensure that you move that government by voting out of power. Because the election will come one way or the other, and all of us cannot die within 4 years. There will still be some people who will survive that onslaught. And those who now support the onslaught, rather than now ensuring that they vote the government that they are shouting weaponized party, rather, because of some tokenism and some chin-chin and some crumbs of bread that is sprinkled to them, they vote for them again and they start crying. But that's not my problem. It is the elite amongst us that always make this allusion. And it is this elite too that is the one that promotes this issue. Because, look at somebody like Amechi the other day telling us that he's hungry.
Yes, I listened to the...
And I was embarrassed that what does he mean by that? But again, I thank God his brother who they are fighting together said,
I also listened to what Jules Okal, who said he has never benefited, in fact, that he became poorer by becoming a governor. Some of these things, when they say it, you begin to rationalize it. Say, if there is no benefit, why are you pushing yourself?
Pushing your head inside.
Two-time governor. And you said you never benefit anything.
As if he's talking to people who have no brain.
So,
you have the using this pen to really make people.
So that is the weaponization of poverty. It's not just material poverty. It's also poverty of the mind. They also try to create this narrative.
Yeah.
And people don't also underestimate the power of hunger.
Yeah.
A poor man can actually do anything. Because the first law of nature is survival.
Yes, you
have to survive.
Yeah.
Before you begin to talk about who is in government.
Yeah.
So at that point, during the electioneering process, you see them sharing palliatives, monies, and all of that. A poor man who is not foresighted, who is not thinking about the future, who said, well, since I'm not benefiting anything, whoever that gets there becomes the same. Why not take this, and whatever happens, all of us will bear it.
Yes.
So this is part of the problem, and we have to continue to sensitize the citizens that their responsibility is also to hold government ransom, to hold them accountable to their own promises, to ensure that those promises that were made in the election come to fruition. Even though there are a lot of factors that may appear to limit the capacity of citizens, which I've mentioned about poverty. We also talk about institutional, restrictions, where even the electoral umpire, doesn't appear to be playing by the rules. The citizens, the worst or the best they can do is to vote. But the responsibility of counting votes and announcing the winner also rests clearly on another institution of government, which also can be compromised.
Yes.
Even if that institution decides to do the proper thing, we also have other institutions, which is also the judiciary, that can also, turn things overnight. We've seen, decisions in court, both sides, where somebody who came forth became the winner, and vice versa.
Yes.
So these are issues, and these are factors that also appears to limit the capacity and powers of the citizens.
Yeah, and that's it. Those things that limit the power as citizens, particularly as voters. Voters, you are the one that makes this thing happen. What is this thing? Democracy. Without you, nothing happens. Without you, there is nobody that gets elected. You elect these people. I don't subscribe to this issue of weaponizing hunger. Mine is that, and for me, with my own work and research in the area of these democratic issues, voters awareness and all, I've come to realize that people behave ignorantly, vote ignorantly, and of course take uninformed decisions, pushed like the crowd. They follow the crowd that, let us do it this way. Whereas sitting down and thinking in a right way so as to take care of the future. What most voters do is to take care of their immediate. And just as I said some few seconds ago, there is no way that all of us will die before the end of another election cycle. So it is in your own interest that you as a voter ensure that you vote right, so as to, because there are good hands around who are able and who will be able to turn Nigeria around. I mean, it happens and it's happening in other countries. You may say you want to look at it that the Europeans and the Americans and others, but it's happening in Africa. We have people who are in government in Africa and they are turning things around. I don't need to mention Rwanda. I don't need to mention even South Africa, Uganda, all these countries too. So we can get it right. Even our neighbor, Ghana here, we can get it right in this country by ensuring that we elect the right hand and remove this idea of being docile and sitting down looking. But be that as it may, this is just the first leg of this matter. We'll come back and we'll now go to the deep of the politics between the government and the people. And now, we'll now use that to really open our eyes to issues affecting us and how we can push governance to the level of deliverables for them to be delivering on what they have promised us. Don't go away. Meanwhile, when we come back, we'll be giving you one or two information. We'll be right back. So you are watching as a group of people discussing it, what you have been saying here. And that's why I want your feedback on what we are doing in the studio. So in terms of that feedback, there will be a number that will be displayed on the screen now. And that number is for you to just send your SMS. Please don't call, do not pick your call, because the call is going to disturb our thoughts. This is not a phone-in program. It's a test-in program. Just test your message, we'll pick it, read it, and of course, if need be, discuss one or two issues that we may raise. We want you to contribute to this program. So, Christy,
Yes, sir.
before we left, we are looking at what have been the challenges, differences between the political parties and politicians, which have now really made the issue of policy inconsistency falling a vein in our system. For now, we want to look at it as we move home, the politics between the government and the people. And I'll give a simple example. This politician who were living together in the back street of Oshodi, the back street of Moni, the back street of Abule Egba, the ghetto part of, Ajibule. All of a sudden, he got elected into one of these houses. And of course, sometimes in Wall Street can be in Abuja, the Senate, or the house where mommy dey plenty palala. So, the allowances they give him is enough for him to buy off the whole street. He decides to leave that area.
Or allowances he gives himself.
Or the allowances he gives himself.
Yes.
He goes to buy himself a house, or rent if he wants to be modest, rent a house in very upper or a high class, upscale environment, leaving us. And one way or the other, we go to see him, run into him in an event, or we may run into each other somewhere, and he now begins to live as if we are no human beings. Because of course it's surrounded by official security protocol, aids, and so on. Treats us as if we don't exist. Do we just overlook it and begin to celebrate him, or we now tell him, call the shots, sometimes bring him a letter to come and talk to us, or we just leave him alone, or even I'll give him, I'll reward him with another electoral victory, because it happens. You find out that some people since 1999 that we have this democracy. Now, they are members of various houses.
Well, I think there's an adage in English that says that, also a story where two persons are gone into hunting. Mm-hmm. They are into a hunting field, and one of his colleagues, the co-hunter, turned to him and said his leg is now beginning to look like that of an animal. You know, when citizens...
the leg of his colleague.
Yeah, it's now looking like an animal. Yes. So when I'm saying it in the context that someone who has been on the path or has been a member of the masses, let me put it that way, eventually has opportunity to get in appointment or elected into government. You become an animal as far as it's concerned, and begins to live a larger than life, attitude. So that is a classic example of what society holds dear. We don't celebrate people based on merit. We celebrate material acquisition. We don't ask how this person acquired this material. Someone who apparently has no source of livelihood, only just to be following politicians up and down, and maybe had opportunity of being elected or being in power. He will turn into an animal and begin to attack even those citizens that were, in the street with him. So these are issues based on issue of politics, issue of morality, and issue of our value systems and our orientation. we saw beyond politics, even among the citizens themselves, who ought to come together to exert their own influence. Because the battle between the politicians or the leaders and the led is an unending battle. It is a game of throne. Why the citizens are empowered under our laws to elect, our leaders. Our leaders also, in turn, are creating opportunities to perpetuate themselves in power and begin to do what they want to do and not what they were sent out to do. So you see that in such situations, it will be difficult to recall them or to withdraw them because they have already perpetuated themselves in power. Now, we citizens that are supposed to be, fighting for our own interests will now be, attacking each other. In Enugu State, just recently, we saw instances or an instance where, where someone who they say is a pastor or a ritualist, a traditional worshiper, they are killing people for money rituals. Are you telling me that those people don't live within their own communities? People know them, and people see the kind of lifestyle they live in. How many persons have been able to ask questions about the source of livelihood? Of course, it's always said that people ask how you make your money, nobody asks how you became poor. But these are value systems, these are orientations that we must begin to entrench in our own personal lives. Where politicians don't care about citizens. That's just the truth. Forget what anybody who falls out of power will come to tell you. Politicians is about their own interests. And those caliber of persons, they are very smart too. Don't underrate their capacity. In any way you want it. In next 10 years, somebody will be here scheming how he's going to get into power. To have a 10-year long-term plan. While the citizens are docile, crying, they say they are helpless. They are helpless because they made themselves helpless. Even when the opportunities are presented themselves, you see them divided. Among this person is not my village person. This person is Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, as the case may be. This person is a Muslim. This person is the Christians. So these are things that continually divide them and makes this power tussle almost a one-way battle. Because those elites, those oligarchies, their own interests, once their interest is covered, they are careless about you. If they do 1 kilometer of road, they will celebrate it to high heavens. And they will tell you this is what they have done. Nobody asks politicians or those in government questions. We have laws in Nigeria. We have freedom of information. Even if you don't take to the street, nobody is encouraging anybody to take arms or go to the street. But even within our legal system, as faulty as it may be, there is still a provision for you to take your local government chairman, take your state governors, to court. Let them account. Let them show you how much they receive from budget, and how they have been able to, spend those things. Nobody does that.
Let me quickly introduce and explain. So the Freedom of Information Act enables you to ask and put all these public officers to the level of accountability. Just do a letter to them. Within 7 days, in some cases, within 14 days, they must react. If they fail to react, you have a right to approach the High Court of the state to ensuring that they will account for what they do. I've done it severally. I want to mention, I did it against the local government chairman who was just busy taking tolls from people and so on and so forth. To say, okay, no problem, we are ready to pay, but we want to see what you have done with the ones that you have taken before under the Section 7 of the Freedom of Information Act.
Very well.
Till I talked to you, we are talking about 2 years ago. Till now, there has been no response from them. The only thing is that, of course, they just stopped the nonsense that they were doing. And of course, the power that you don't even need to go on the street. You can just use the legal instrument and framework on ground to ensure that you get accountability for their activities and action. Sorry to have butted in. I just wanted to.
No, that is because the purpose of this program is to enlighten the general populace about their basic rights and civic responsibility, not just in electing people or casting their votes, but also holding them accountable. And one of the ways to hold them accountable
please don't call. Sorry, Jerry. Please don't call send your text message. We'll read it. You want to hear your voice? We'll help you with your voice. Don't call. Please. Your call is distracting us. Just send your text message and we'll read it for you.
Yes,
Sorry.
and one more thing is that Nigerians or society will also begin to look not just on the side of the president, because of course the president wears enormous powers, but we should also go to the local government, states, and begin to interrogate how things are done. And thankfully, just recently, the Supreme Court has been able to settle the long-term battle as to whether the Freedom of Information Act also applies to states. And that has been settled. So we have nothing, that will limit anybody from holding these people accountable.
Yeah, it's just the fundamental human rights enforcement rules that is applicable both to the states and the federal. Anyway, I'm talking to a lawyer as a lawyer too. So, but be that as it may, the main issue is that the power is in your hand. You are a voter. You voted these people in, and you can't vote and be suffering. This is acting to the child of a seamstress going naked, or the child of a butcher eating bone, or even the child of a building merchant or property owner living under the shed, under the bridge. It's an aberration. In other climes, nobody does it. Government itself don't take, and officials don't take the people for granted. In fact, they are so much very, very in line with the wishes of the people. But in Nigeria, we found out that the people are not taken into consideration in the activities of these political leaders. And to me, most of the things, like unfortunately, we have just unconsciously dealt, or we are now in the election period as it were, because politics have started. We are seeing and hearing people who are trying to form a coalition, either of strange bred fellows, or because they are just funny people. Because just as you said earlier on, all these people who are there, who are now forming this coalition, did not do well. They used to be on the other side, and they used to be in government. They were in government, and we don't see what they deliver. And now they are now coming. Are they telling us that they are now born again? But that's not even the main issue. The main issue is that we, the people, we, the voters, are we okay by the interest of these people? Because generally where I'm going is that the whole issue of their activities is that they are prioritizing their election capability or ability, not the interest of the people.
Exactly. All over the world, power is not given. Power is taken. No matter the level of influence you want to exert on government, you must fight for it. It is not a bed of roses. So our people must rise up to the occasion, demand accountability, and ensure that the right persons are being elected, irrespective of the shenanigans going up and down. And of course, sometimes it's also important to, situate the limitations we have. We also have limitations. Citizens, we have limitations. It appears Nigerian political history from 1960 up until today has been a kind of circle of the same leadership that have perpetuated themselves in power, even during the military era and immediately after post-colonial era. They have continuously been in power. And how do you think they've been able to achieve that? They are very systematic in their approach, So citizens must rise up. It is no longer a time where somebody will sit down and begin to pontificate as after all, APC or PDP is a PDP state, APC state. There is nothing like that. It must be people-centric. It must be people-oriented. We should do away with where anybody comes from, the religions anybody worships, and embrace each other for us to get the right thing from the leaders. I keep saying it. That those in power do not care much about the people. It is about their interests. That is why barely 2 years into the life of a government, we are beginning to have all manner of endorsement. And a reasonable person will begin to think, is it not time for them to actually deliver on the promise, at least for the first mandate? It is their time to make those promises come to life, and not for you to begin to, tell us to give them more time.
Okay.
I was reading an article recently,
Mm-hmm.
2015, when Muhammadu Buhari first came into power.
Yes.
His first 2 years, he kept telling Nigerians, you have to give him more time. First tenor gone, give him more time. Second tenor, we kept giving him more time until he finished his 8 years.
The time got
So we are now in the second year of the new government. We are still being asked to give them more time. You see, there is no better time than now.
Like that's what I observed. Even during Obasanjo's military era, if you remember, he was saying that we have to tighten our belt tightening. Since Obasanjo's era in 1978 till now, Nigerians have been tightening their belts. Unfortunately, the political class, those in power, they are not tightening any belt. Rather, you see their stomach becoming bulky, their necks becoming fatter. But that's not the problem now. Really, one or two text messages we are done. The first one is that it's from Kuye O. I didn't say where he's calling for, where he sent this text from, but what he says is that, who is that person available now that can turn Nigeria around? He said that all of them are the same. But no, there are still some people, you are the people who don't vote for the right candidates. You vote for money bags. People who give you money are the people you vote for. People who are ready to serve don't have money. What they have is their brains to turn around things, not money. So, and there are more than, I guess there are 19 political parties, and of course, at worst, any election there will be 10 candidates. But the only two that have money are the ones that you look at and look around. The other parties, you care less about them. And that's why we are still here. Let us change. Let's have a focus and let's have a shift. Then obviously we'll get something. Let me see what this other person is saying.
If I can just add.
Okay, go on.
Election in and of itself does not necessarily guarantee good leadership. It is the people that will demand good leadership from their leaders.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily about who is in power.
Yes.
It is the capacity of the people to demand good leadership.
Capacity.
So you get the level of what you demand.
Yeah.
So people, yes, election is good. Democracy requires the most popular person to take the party. But beyond the election, people must have the zeal, the willingness to hold those whom they have voted to power, to account. So we must have that capacity to make that demand from them.
Capacity.
Not just vote. We cannot vote an angel. We don't have an angel in it. Even God, if God should come to Nigeria to contest election, people will still be opposed to his candidacy. So it's not really about being righteous.
Capacity.
It's about exactly
capacity. Yeah, I like that language. That's why I turned into a musician. Capacity. But unfortunately, in this part of the world where I come from, we always have this adage that if you are eating plantain, you cannot tell the truth. There is a way you call it in Yoruba language. I don't want to so if you eat, they call it dodo. If you eat dodo, you cannot be able to speak the truth, which is ododo.
Like table manners.
Not table
manners.
Are
eating,
no, not that. If you eat dodo, you cannot speak ododo. It's just a coin something. So ododo is the truth. If you eat dodo, you cannot you cannot speak the truth, which is ododo. So that's just some problems we tell, because when in the course of a discussion we are talking about being induced financially, right? And if you are induced financially, you collected money up front, or as you call it, front-loaded your money, then obviously you cannot talk against those people who have given you money as an inducement, right? And as we close now, I just quickly want to read the message from Uche Okora from Agege. I like at least he has disclosed his place. And he said, "Good PM, sir. I don't like you calling political leaders. They are political rulers. I don't like you calling them political leaders. They are rulers. And what we want are leaders. At least we are going up. To me, I'm happy with what Okorafor has said, because it's changing the mindset. If we now begin to see our politicians as rulers, then they will now want to turn themselves into leaders, because there's a whole lot of difference between a ruler who cares less and a leader who cares for the people." On that note, I want to thank Okorafor. You have given us something to chew till next week. Please, you the politician, behave like leaders. not rulers. You, the voters, don't sleep on your right. Have the capacity, as our guest has said today, to ask questions, so as to bring all these leaders to be accountable. That is the package for today. And I can't thank you enough, Kingsley.
Thank you so
Each
much.
time you come, you always introduce
Thank
something
you
new. You introduce something
And,
fresh. Maybe because you are fresh again, you introduce something fresh.
maybe because I was protesting. I don't know how to protest. So I encourage citizens and voters to rise up to the occasion and stop being docile. We have been docile for too long.
I hope that the next election will bring something out of facility and of course give us something wonderful. On that note, I want to say thank you particularly for Kuye and Kora for that sent us text messages. Some people are busy calling, there's no room for that. Please take notice of that. And next week, by the grace of God, we will bring you a better package. I want to thank the management of this station, particularly our president, Steve Ojo, producer, Mr. Teslim Ajayi, cameraman, and all those who are working behind the scenes, engineers, and of course those who are in the art station and all, ensuring that God this thing live on your behalf. I'm thanking them all for ensuring and making this thing possible, today's broadcast possible. I am Wale Ogunade, your host on this program called Voters Forum. Stay with me next time. Don't go against the law.